Hello, I'm Alex Fell. I'm an architect and I work at Howells in London. We've been nominated in the landscape category for Eden Dock, which is a project that we've done at Canary Wharf in East London. People who know London will know Canary Wharf as a business district. It was developed in the 1980s on the city's former docklands. Since then, it's become a much more diverse neighbourhood. A lot of residential has been built there. It's become a retail destination for East London. And our project was a part of a wider strategy that we worked with alongside HTA Design, who were the landscape architects, to develop a wider strategy for how Canary Wharf could become a sort of softer, more of a neighbourhood, integrating nature and sustainability into what was previously a very hard-edged, very sort of concrete-y business district. What the project does is it creates a series of floating pontoons and boardwalks and seating areas around Middle Dock, which is one of the central water bodies in the middle of Canary Wharf. So it seeks to activate that with a combination of public space, engagement through sports and plays, so there's swimming and kayaking in the dock, and then new landscape, floating gardens and biodiversity introduced both above and below the water. One of the key ambitions of the project was to bring people down properly to the water's edge to engage with it. This is something that you can't do at the moment at Canary Wharf. There's always a solid balustrade and a 2-metre drop between the pavements there and the water. So we built a series of stepped bleachers and ramped structures floating on the water that allow you to get right down to the water's edge. And then once you're down there, you are able to engage fully with the amenity value of being by the water because there's no balustrades at the water's edge. It's an open edge, and we've put a series of floating ecosystems and underwater shelves that support planting that also serve as the edge protection. So you don't have a barrier in the way, but the environment is kept safe, because if you fall over the edge, you land on a floating island of planting or a subaquatic shelf and are able to get back onto the pontoons. So obviously the biggest challenge of a floating structure is that it's constantly moving. We're used to designing buildings that are, apart from millimetres of movement, more or less static. And actually here we're talking about metres worth of change in water level that can happen over the course of even a single day. So the challenge is to design structures that can accommodate that kind of movement. We came up with a series of articulated walkways that connect the floating pontoons back to the dock edge. And these are sized to make sure that even as the water goes up and down through either heavy rain or through drought, the bridges maintain a safe and accessible gradient. One of the virtues of that, of having floating structures, is that they are climate resilient. So even if you get very heavy rainfall, even if you do get drought, the habitats, the walkways, the seating is always accessible. It never gets submerged. I think a big reason for it being nominated is that it's replicable and it's repeatable. Almost all of the world's cities are built around water, whether that's a river or on a seafront. And the well-being benefits of being next to water and activating water's edges are really well known, and everyone enjoys being next to water space. So not only is it repeatable as a concept, it's also repeatable in its actual implementation. We developed a modular system built on standardized pontoon sizes, standardized steel frames. That means we could extend, adapt, rebuild, recycle the project that we've already built, or indeed repeat the same system in other places. So I think that sort of global repeatability and that global relevance to waterside cities is one of the main reasons it was nominated. Craft and design are absolutely central to the culture at Howells. We have a motto that's clear, which stands for crafted, lean, elegant, appropriate, and rationale. And that underpins all of the design decisions that we make as a practice. It helps us to keep a focused and consistent approach to design and a constant reference point for our internal design reviews. I think that idea of being a design-led practice, it's really important to have a clear set of values that you can measure your projects against and ensure that you're applying your own design approach in a consistent way across all of your projects. If I was to give a piece of advice to my younger self as an aspiring architect, it would be to never be afraid to contribute to conversations about design or a project. The thing that we really look for and the thing that we value when we're looking at the people who are coming up through our practice is the people that are able to take a leadership role, to offer their opinion, to talk about design, to really take a front row seat in actually giving opinions, talking about the project, being able to explain it. And I think there's a temptation that people often feel is that they should hold back when they're young because they don't have much experience. They feel they should leave design or leave communication to older members of the practice. But actually the very thing that we're looking for in younger people is that ability to communicate, that ability to offer an opinion. And your opinion's valuable, It's not just about experience in how long you've been an architect, it's what's your life experience? What ideas have you seen? What have you grown up around that might influence a project?